Boxing Truth here. This is going to be about 3 stories rolled into one. It's going to be obviously the big news yesterday with the cancellation of the Fury-Klitschko rematch for the second time in 3 months. The fight has been canceled and it's done with. It just wasn't meant to be. It's very unfortunate. Just really bad news for Fury and Team Fury, as it's been declared that he's medically unfit to defend his title, and he has to undergo some treatment to make a full recovery. And of course, the status of his titles is still in question. What's going to happen? Klitschko will move on from the rematch, and he's going to look to see what the sanctioning bodies do in order to determine his next move for his path of his career. Now, for Fury, it's devastating news. It's a big blow. It's so much for bringing in a new era and having a long reign with successful defenses, subsequent defenses of his title. Just wasn't meant to be. He's now pretty much done for the year, has to recover. There's no indication of when he can return. It's been reported that he will be gone for quite some time, and perhaps he may have to be institutionalized for whatever issue he has going through mentally. Some mental issues he's suffering from. And we all knew Tyson was a whack job, considering his statements and especially what he said prior to the scheduled rematch the first time. In his interviews, that he was saying he was hoping Klitschko would chin him so he doesn't have to defend the titles. Threats of retiring, and definitely Fury's going through something, but we just don't know what's he going through health-wise. And he's in the house in the Manchester Arena for the Kroll-Linares fight, making this video prior to this fight, just a couple of hours away until Linares and Kroll unify the titles in lightweight. And there was footage of Fury in the building. He seems fine physically. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with him. Of course, there's been pictures surfacing about what type of shape he's in. He doesn't look like he's in great shape, but Fury's no bodybuilder. He's not a guy that's going to be chiseled out, looking jacked up for fights. The guy has fought plenty of times in his career looking flabby around the waist area. So Fury and Team Fury are going to make a statement early next week about what is the issues going on with Fury for his health. And Peter Fury is going to do an exclusive interview about the situation, so make sure to look out for that. That's going to be coming out soon, and we'll be able to get the full details on what exactly is going on, and there'll be more closure behind the situation. I know people are criticizing. It's been unfortunate. He wins the title, hasn't done shit with it, hasn't fought this entire year, and now he's not going to fight at all this year to defend his titles. Well, it appears that way. So now the question is, what's going to go on with the titles, the WBA and the WBO? Now, Peter Fury is stating that Fury he will not be stripped and should not be stripped of his titles. Well, I don't think Fury is going to be completely stripped, because he's going through some issues with his health. So, of course, the sanctioning bodies have rules. Now, the sanctioning bodies are going to rule in the best interest of them. They haven't made any money ever since Fury secured the titles off Klitschko. They haven't been defended for the past year, almost the past year. And the sanctioning bodies of the WBO and the WBA have not made any sanctioning fees in the heavyweight division since that fight last year. So, for defending heavyweight champions, for the sanctioning bodies, they get a year to defend their titles, up to 12 months to defend their titles. It hasn't been 12 months yet, but now Fury's not going to be able to fight for quite some time. So something needs to be done. A decision needs to be made about the titles. Now, Peter Fury is stating that Tyson will not be stripped. I don't think he'll be completely stripped, but here's what I think is going to happen. The WBA and the WBO are going to place Tyson Fury as champion in recess because he's unable to defend the titles because of what's something going on with him medically. So he's going to be given an extension for what is the issue with him health wise, and if he's able to defend the title or come back and challenge the interim champion once he's ready, physically and mentally fit to fight. So I think the WBA and WBO are going to place Tyson Fury as champion in recess. They will create an interim belt. Well, I believe the WBO does that. They'll make an interim championship, and they'll have the highest rated available contenders to fight for the title, which I believe Klitschko will be eligible to fight for the WBO sanctioning body. The same thing's going to happen with the WBA. They're going to place Fury as champion in recess, and when he's able, physically and mentally fit to fight, he can come back and fight the defending interim champion at that time. So it's like he's going to be stripped, but not really. He'll have first dibs on who's going to be the champion following this period after Fury's pulled out of the rematch for the second time. And for Klitschko, it's been disastrous for him. It's been a nightmare. He gets his titles ripped off from him in Germany, gets schooled, gets embarrassed, couldn't let his hands go, and he's been inactive ever since because of the shit with Fury, unable to get the rematch to take place. It just wasn't meant to be. So Klitschko is awaiting word from the sanctioning bodies of what they're going to do. I believe they're going to place Fury as champion in recess. Then Klitschko will be able to fight for at least one of the sanctioning bodies, predictably the WBO. And Klitschko is going to gun for one of the belts, fight the highest rated available contender within that sanctioning body, and he'll probably move on with his career. He'll probably never fuck with Tyson Fury again, even though he wants revenge. I don't think he wants to go through that fiasco again where he has no idea if the fight's going to take place or not. So it looks like that rematch it's not going to happen. It's done with. Just wasn't meant to be. And Klitschko's going to move on, but he does have an option to fight next in November, as, of course, with this recent turn of events, Klitschko has no opponent. And Anthony Joshua also has no opponent. So, of course, Dan Rafael, who broke the story, who was the first one to broke the story that the rematch between Fury and Klitschko was going to be canceled. He's pushing for, why not just Klitschko fight Anthony Joshua for a date in November 26th at in Manchester. So that's the scheduled place and time and date that Joshua's next fight is going to take place at the 26th in Manchester. So, of course, Dan Rafael is pushing for Klitschko and Joshua to fight. It would be a huge fight, a huge event. And Joshua currently he has no opponent. Right now, Eddie Hearn is stating that Joseph Parker is the front runner, but he has a fight on October 1st against Demetrenko, which is going to be not an easy fight. He's favored, but it's not an easy fight, and anything could happen. He could get injured, he can get cut, so it's not very reliable to say that Parker will be fit to fight for November 26th after a fight on October 1st, which could be a tough physical fight. He's fighting a big guy in Demetrenko. So the Pulev fight is done. It's not going to happen. According to Hearn, they offered Pulev three offers. All were turned down. No counter offer was made by Pulev's team, so they simply don't want the fight. It's very clear they don't want the fight. They pretty much know Joshua chins and flattens him. I mean, Pulev is considered a world-class heavyweight, but he's tailor-made for Anthony Joshua. So Pulev doesn't want that work. So Eddie Hearn had to move on. So now Peter Fury stated that Hughie Fury, since Andy Ruiz pulled out of their scheduled fight, well, it was talked about, contracts weren't signed, Ruiz didn't take the fight. So Hughie Fury is also without an opponent. And Peter Fury was interested in having Hughie Fury fight Anthony Joshua for that November 26th date. But according to Hearn, Hughie Fury's team priced themselves out. They simply asked for double of what was offered from Eddie Hearn. So it's a non-starter for November 26th. It's not going to happen. Simply too much money Hughie Fury's team want for the fight. Hearn thinks that Peter is, he's just being smart. He doesn't feel maybe Hughie Fury's not ready. Who knows? Both guys are relatively young, undefeated heavyweights. And according to Hearn, they just want too much money. So right now, it looks like Parker is the front runner. But that could easily change. I mean, Klitschko is available. I'm pretty sure he'll take the fight if it's offered to him. And according to Eddie Hearn, he's already has reached out to Klitschko's camp to see if there's any interest. I'll be surprised if that fight happens next, because I think it's just a little too soon for Joshua. I mean, Klitschko's getting up there in age. He's an old guy. He's coming off a loss. Hasn't fought the entire year. But it's a really big jump. It's kind of like the same jump Liam Smith made, going from the guys he was fighting and then fighting Canelo. And you saw the result. Liam Smith was just in over his head. Just didn't have enough for Canelo. And this is like the same type of jump for Joshua, to go from fighting Charles Martin, Dominic Brazil, and then to fighting Klitschko. That's a very big leap in competition. Joshua is still very early in his career. He has a lot of potential. He's got a lot of tools. He looks the part, but he still needs a lot more seasoning. And stylistically, it's a good fight for Klitschko, because Fury will always be a stylistic nightmare for Klitschko. I mean, the Fury has the foot speed, the agility, and he's bigger and taller than Klitschko. It will always be a stylistic nightmare for Klitschko to fight Fury. But Joshua's it's a different fight stylistically. Joshua is not as fast on his feet as Fury. He's not as agile, or he doesn't provide as much movement. He's a guy he's a boxer puncher with good technique, but he's not a guy that moves around the ring. He just doesn't have that type of footwork. He doesn't have that type of foot speed compared to a Tyson Fury. So stylistically, it's a better fight for Klitschko. And plus, Joshua's around the same height, 6'6", and he's still relatively inexperienced. Only 17 fights? So it could be too soon, too early for that fight. But if Eddie Hearn pulls the trigger on that fight, I give him credit. He's showing a lot of confidence in Anthony Joshua. And I would too for a lot of fights. I think Joshua could beat a lot of world-class fighters right now. But Klitschko, he's a different animal. I mean, the guy's 40 years old, but he's still in great shape. He's still hungry. He's still determined to be world heavyweight champion. So be very surprised if that fight happens. But it's a huge fight, and it'll be a very interesting fight to see if Joshua could defeat a future Hall of Famer in Wladimir Klitschko. But that's the situation. Klitschko could fight somebody else for one of the sanctioning body's titles. If Fury's able to come back within the extension period, he could fight the defending champion at the time or the interim champion at the time. And Joshua, if he wants it, because I don't think Klitschko would turn it down. If Joshua wants it, he can go right after Wladimir and see if he could get that big name under his resume, and he'll be the man, especially if he, of course, defeats Klitschko and does it in a more impressive fashion than Tyson Fury did. He'll be the man in the heavyweight division. And it'll be quite a year of a transition for him to be from a prospect to a world champion and then becoming the man, all in a year's time of the heavyweight division. It's a great possibility that it could happen because both guys are open for the fight to happen between Klitschko and Joshua. All Eddie Hearn has to do is pull the trigger, and Joshua's team has to believe that at this stage of his young career, he can defeat a seasoned, experienced former heavyweight champion in Wladimir Klitschko. And for Fury, we'll find out what's exactly is going on with him in terms of his health early next week, and whatever it is, it's too soon to judge. All you can do is just wish him well in his recovery, and hopefully he can come back as soon as possible and see if he can regain his titles, which it'll be stripped, but he'll be placed as the champion in recess. Just a fucked up situation in the heavyweight division. The titles are going to be separated, and it's just going to be a long road for an undisputed heavyweight champion. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.